Hello and welcome to this tour of the Student Finance form for 2021 entry. I'm going to be showing you guys today all of the main parts of the form so that when you get onto it, if you have any questions, hopefully this will help some of the common queries. And also if you haven't started yet, hopefully it can alleviate some worries about how complicated the form is. As it's not, sometimes you might just need a little bit of extra help with what all of the different things mean. So all I have done to get onto this page is I have clicked on Student Finance England 2021, which I searched for through Google, and it brought me on to this. You may at the moment get put in a queue that looks a little bit like this, but don't worry, it will soon let you through onto the page and you can log in and out. At the moment it is not taking more than 10 minutes. So this is the same page that if you start the application, if you want to log in at different times to finish it, you can just put in your information there. Once you have registered, you'll be given a customer reference number, so you can just check your email to put that. But if you've not started an application yet, you need to go through this create an account part here. So you just click on that. It's currently open. Today the video is being made at the 5th of the 3rd, 2021 for full-time students. Part-time students will be later. So I've clicked on create an account, and what it will bring me through to say, have you applied for Students Finance before? It's likely that you haven't, so if you haven't, you click no. You might say yes if you have done HNDs or HNCs or even degrees before as well, but for majority of you it will be no. You're then asked if you've ever provided financial details to Student Finance to support a student's application. So you may be a parent or carer who's now going on to university themselves. You would, for example, say, yes, I have, and then they can then transfer your financial details over. But for majority of you, it will be no. So you'll then just be asked to enter all your personal details. If you don't have your national insurance number at this stage, it is important to start the process. And you can just Google national insurance lost and fill in a form or call somebody through the government website, and they will ask you some questions to get your national insurance number. You will need it at some point, as it is used to track how much money you're earning for your repayment. So do make sure that you have that, but you can just skip it at this stage. So like normal, just entering all of your details. You'll then be taken onto a page to enter your home address. If you live at multiple addresses, so your parents aren't together, for example, and you live half at one and half at the other, just put the address where you would live the most, because the reason they're asking for this is so they can send you any correspondence. You'll then be brought up to enter more contact details. So once you've put in all your details and you've checked a summary, you then just need to create a password and finish your registration. You can then just log in and out whenever you want once that's all registered, and you'll be sent an email with all your details on that as well. Do make sure with password information and secret answer information, if like me, you have a tendency to forget because you have so many passwords, that you just put these in a safe space so that you can log in, and then you'll be taken onto the main form as you have confirmation of registration. So as it says at the bottom of the confirmation of registration page here, you can now use this account, log in and out of it to actually apply for Student Finance. You can use the same login information every year, but you will have to apply every year. So you'll have to update your details, for example, every year that you're at university or studying for a higher education degree. It'll also tell you if you sent through evidence, the status of these. You can use it to track your application, so actually see when the money is going to come through, for example, and view any payment and letters. So you will be logging in and out at different places, so do keep all of this information to hand. So once you've gone through all of that, you'll be taken onto your account, and this is where you can apply for Student Finance. As we're starting our finance for the first time today, we are going to be clicking on this apply for student. So when you click on apply for Student Finance, it'll ask you what type of student finance you want to apply for. So for a degree or a foundation degree or anything like that, you'd be clicking on higher education. And then if you're applying for your entry level degree, so if you're 18, for example, and you're going to do a degree for the first time, or a mature student doing a degree for the first time, it will be undergraduate. Then if you're doing full-time or part-time, for most people it's full-time. what year you want to apply. So if you're going to university in September, it's 2021 to 2022. It'll then just take you through some statements that are just letting you know a bit about what you're actually applying for. So it does say the application will take 30 minutes. So some things you'll need is your UK passport details. If you don't have a UK passport, you can send them an original copy of your birth certificate. Your university and course name, if you know exactly what university and what course you want to go to and you put that as your firm, you can put that on there. However, this can really be easily changed. So if you haven't got your offers through, don't wait to complete your student finance application. Do it now. Put in the university and course that you want to go to the most, and then you can change it at a later date very, very simply. The thing that takes the most time on student finance is the household income, and that is unlikely to change. And so it's easier just to get things submitted and change the university and course name at a later date. You'll also need your national insurance number. As I said earlier, if you've lost it, do take the steps now to find out what that is. And you'll need UK bank account details. It's really important that these bank account details are your bank account details, as you're the person that's going to need access to them. When it comes to receiving payment, it needs to be coming into your account so that you can spend that money. If you don't have a bank account already, do take steps to get one now. You can get a student bank account. These are accounts that give you benefits as a degree level student, and you can either change your details to this student bank account later on, or you can try and apply for a student bank account now. They tend to need evidence that you've either got an offer or an accept from a university to do these. It differs depending on the bank, but it's worth looking into student bank accounts now. And you will also need address details of friends and family in case they lose contact. Once you have looked through all that information, you'll see that there are 6 different stages on the form and then a submit as well. We're going to go through the main parts of each of these sections. We might skip the odd page for time, but it will give you a good insight and information on the bits that students struggle with the most. So UK national is important to put on. I'll tell you on here what they mean by UK national, and the reason they ask for this is because if you're what is called a home fee payer, it is different to someone who is an EU or an international fee payer, and it's a different amount. Then if you do have a passport, you can click on that you can give your valid passport details. If you don't have one, that's absolutely fine. You'll then be asked to put in all of your passport details. You'll also be asked questions like if you've lived outside of the UK in the last 3 years. It's not things like holidays or family members in the armed forces or anything like that. It's if you had permanent residence. And also you'll be asked that since 2018, if either you, your parents or guardians, or your partners have lived or worked outside of the UK. If this is something like being in the armed forces and so they've been on detachment or for business trips, but their permanent residence is still in the UK, you'd click no. But if it's permanent, so say for example they lived in America, they were registered there and their address was there and they were paying American tax, for example, you would click yes. You also put your relationship status. If you are a mature student and you are married or in a civil partnership or living with a partner, for example, you put this because they would be counted as your household income, even if you weren't receiving any income, as they would be expected to help support you whilst you're living with rent, etc., when at university. So you would need to click one of those if that was the case for you to trigger a part of the form where you put in your partner's details to support you with the application. You'll also be asked various questions that are important for specific circumstances. So if you have children or people that are dependent on you, you can click that and it will create a separate part of the form as you can get dependence allowance. If you have adults that depend on you, so that could be a family member, or it could be someone you live with or a husband, you can also click on that. You'll also trigger a new part of the form to get additional funds. If you have put that your age is under 25 years old, you'll also be asked if you've supported yourself financially for a total of 3 years or more before the start of your academic course. It's important that if you are estranged from your parents, that it needs to have been for more than 3 years, and that you need to provide sources of evidence. We'll put in the link for this video, someone who you can speak to if you're an estranged person, to get extra advice and guidance. You'll also be asked in the About You section if you live with your parents. If you put the age as your age is under 25 years old, you'll also be asked which of your parents you live with, so if it's both your mother or your father. If you live with one parent half the time and one parent the other half of the time, it's up to you to decide which parent you want to put as supporting you. You would not be expected to have both parents supporting your application if they do not live together, just one of them. You'll also be asked, based on who you select, what their current relationship status is. The reason you have to put this is if they are married or in a civil partnership or living with a partner, for example, you will have to also put that partner as part of your household income. If your parents are divorced and you live with your mother and your mother's partner, you would put your mother and your mother partner, not your mother and your father's income evidence, down for your maintenance loan. And you'll also be asked some additional things about if you get disability, if you're part of the armed forces, if you care for a child under 20, or you had time out for your course due to illness. If you say yes for one of those, it will trigger a new part of the form as well. And again, you get additional funding. The reason they ask these questions of you is so they can support you. At the end of every section, you will also be asked just to check through everything and save and continue. You can edit it afterwards as well. So for the second section, previous study, you'll be asked if you've studied or are currently studying any higher education course. So this doesn't include A-levels or anything like that. So for most of you, it won't apply, nor access course. For the course and fees and living cost sections, both of these sections will start off with giving you some infographics and information. It is important to read these through because it'll tell you things like what a tuition fee loan is, how is it paid, what interest and when will you pay, and how much does my university or college charge. This is a section where I ask you where you plan to study. As I said previously, you can just put a university or college in there that you want to go to the most and then change it, because if you get into your insurance choice or if you go through clearing, you will need to change this on student finance anyway. You can just type it in and select it. You'll then be asked to put in which course you want to study there. And again, you can type this in, and again, you can change this at a later date if you need to, if you get a change of course, anything like that after results day. You will then also be asked where you'll spend most of your time during the academic year. If you're in initial teacher training, you select university or college. So nearly everybody will put university or college if this is your first year of study. So even if you are doing a course with a year abroad or a course with a year in industry, these don't tend to be part of the course until the third or fourth year, sometimes the second one. So it's basically just asking if you would be abroad for some of these years, the funding would be slightly different, but for nearly all of you, it'll be university or college. It will also ask you where you've been living during term time. If your situation changes for this, that's no problem at all. You can go in and change it. But it's basically asking if you're with parents or if you're somewhere else. The reason for this is because you'll get slightly different amounts of money if you're living with parents, because you wouldn't be expected to pay rent in the same way. It'll also ask you questions like where they should send your mail. Do feel free to tick the box that says same place. And the final things it will ask you is, will you be charged $9,250? The reason it brings this figure up is majority of courses is $9,250, and it knows that at this university, for example, your tuition fee loan tends to be this amount of money, so you can just click yes, it is. It will also ask you if you want to apply for this. You don't have to apply for a tuition fee loan if you don't want to, but every single person is entitled to it. So even if your parents are millionaires, you can still get your university tuition fee loan paid for. It will also ask you if you want to borrow the maximum, which is the $9,250. This money will go directly from the government to the university you've put earlier on the form, which is why it's important to change it if you do end up going to a different university. Most people select, I want to borrow the maximum, but you could select you only want to borrow a certain amount and then you can pay for the rest yourself. Once you've checked through all of the details, you'll then be brought onto a similar page to the course and fees. So very similar to the tuition fee loan, it will ask you if you do want to apply for a maintenance loan. Everyone is entitled to this amount of money here. So again, even if your parents are millionaires, you can get $4,422, and the rest is means tested. So that means that your household income is assessed and you get certain amounts of money on top based on that. The reason behind this is if your parents are millionaires, for example, they would be expected to help you with things like rent and food, whereas if someone is on lower income, they wouldn't be able to perhaps have the disposable income to do so. This money pays for rent and bills, etc., and this is the money that will go to you in your bank account and comes to you in 3 installments, one at the beginning of each semester. It'll also ask you if you just want the minimum, so that £4,000, or if you want to get up to this amount. This will change depending on if you're applying to a university in London or if you're living at home, but it's given me this figure because I've already selected that I want to go to UEA, which is not in London, and I've already selected that I will be moving away from home. On top of your maintenance loan, you'll also be asked some questions in this section about extra funding that you can receive. So for example, they will ask you, do you have any of the following? So, and this is to get something called disabled students allowance. So things like people that have physical or learning impairments and as well as mental health conditions, they can click this box, and I recommend you do if you do have one of these, because what it will do is it will trigger a new part of the form, which means that you can provide evidence of your disability. The university or college that you attend will then be given that information to be able to help you with student support, but also so they can be given a pot of money to be able to buy things to help you with your support costs. So once again, once you've read through to check everything's right, you'll be brought onto the 5th section about financial information. So in this section, you'll be asked, will you be employed while you're studying? It's really important to note with this, it does not mean part-time or casual employment, or if you've worked just before you are doing the course. They'll also ask if you have any income that isn't from employment or self-employment. Most people put no for this, but if you do have interest from savings or investments, rental income, money from trusts or sponsorship, that is important to put on there. State benefits, so things like childcare, tax credits, benefits, anything like that are not included, and nor are scholarships and bursaries from your university or college. So you don't need to worry about that, and also things like ISAs that you might get interest on as well. In the About You section, depending on what you put, whether you live with a mother, mother and partner, or mother and father, or any of those combinations, in the financial information section, you will be asked to tell you about the person you said that is in your household. This is because you want to apply for the high amount of maintenance loan that is means tested. So what you just need to do is put in all of your mother's information, including their email address. What this will do is once you've clicked submit on your application, it will automatically send an email to the people that you've put in, so mother and partner, for example. They'll be sent your customer reference number and a link to create their own account to support your application. They'll be asked on their account to supply evidence of their household income. Similarly, if you put mother's partner or father, for example, you'll be asked for their information, and they'll be sent through a similar email to put through their income as well, and they will be added together, and that will be the household income that assesses how much maintenance loan you. Once it's all been assessed, they'll tell you exactly how much you'll get, but if you wanted to find out just before then, you can use the student finance calculator to do this. As we said at the beginning of the form, you will also need a bank account, and this is where you put this information in. You'll also be asked in this segment for additional contacts. This is just in case they can't get in contact with you. So that is it. You will then be taken onto the submit section just to check through your application summary. It is really important that you check all this through and you read through all the information and terms and conditions. That is your part over if you do not have anyone supporting your application or if you haven't been asked to submit additional evidence. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully this has been useful to help guide you through the student finance form to know what to expect and how to do it when the time comes for you to submit your form. Please do this as early as possible and bear in mind that deadline